Hi, I'm Dave Monty and welcome to my video series, Everything Villages. Today I am going to update my video on wire fraud. Unfortunately, last week one of my clients was taken for a lot of money, so I want to reiterate the importance of this topic as well as explain how it works, kind of some red flags to look for, and how to protect yourself. So stay tuned. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. If you like my videos, please hit like. If you like a lot of my videos, please subscribe to my channel. If you like your free 42-page guide, Buying and Selling a Home in the Villages, I cover most of the topics in these videos, including this one, in that guide. Just email me right here at davemontysales@gmail.com and I'll send you out your copy. As I said in the introduction, I had a client last week lose a lot of money in the high five figures, and I'm sick about it. And she's taken it probably better than I am. She's been fantastic through this, but it kind of made me sick. So I thought I would update this particular video to draw attention and importance to it, so you can protect yourself against this particular fraud. So what is wire fraud? In real estate transactions, what happens is a hacker gets into one of the accounts within the transaction and sends false wiring instructions to the client to direct that money to the hacker's account versus sending it to the title company. It's such a simple scam. I'm sure that the code behind it is fairly sophisticated, but pulling it off is pretty simple and fairly undetectable. You have to really keep an eye out for it or just avoid it altogether, and I'm going to explain how to avoid it altogether. Right? Happens typically to the buyers because the buyers are the ones who are sending money through the escrow deposit, and unfortunately for my client, it was closing funds. It's growing in frequency and sophistication. I mean, it just continues. Mainly it's frequency. The sophistication is so simple, but the frequency is definitely increasing. I had this number in here from 2 years ago, $300 billion a year in real estate wire fraud. But I'm assuming that last year was even greater with a greater volume of transactions, as well as, again, the growing frequency of them happening. Right. So how does this work? In any real estate transaction, you have a lot of communication going on via email. You have a client talking to the realtor talking to the title company, and everyone else talking to everybody else. The hacker somewhere gets into one of these computers. In this case, the hacker was in our client's computer. And the very first thing they're going to do is they will send an email to somebody. Now, this email looks like it comes from somebody they know, and I'll explain that in a little bit more detail in the following slide. But what they're doing is they're sending an email to the client and says, hey, please open up this file. I think you'd find it really cute. And it might be a picture of a kitten. You never know what it is. But embedded in that file is actually a Trojan, which is a little piece of software that sits on the client that does something. And in this case, what it does is it redirects any emails that come in or out over to this hacker. So when the client emails the title company and says, hey, when it's closing, that email is actually going back to the hacker. And the hacker says, okay, we're going to do this at 10 a.m. next Friday. By the way, here are your wiring instructions. Okay. Then the client says, oh, okay, great. Here are my wiring instructions. They pick up the phone. They call their financial institution, the bank, to send money to the title company. And the bank wires the money to the title company. The hacker then offloads that money out of that account into an offshore account, and it becomes very difficult to get back. That's how it works on a very high level. Okay, so we'll get into a little bit of the detail. I mean, just more on the side of what you might see and why people fall for this. I always thought to myself, I would never fall for any of these scams, but this one would be very easy to fall for. That's why it's increasing in frequency. So it all starts with a spoofed email. I think I said at the beginning that the client, we're not 100% sure how she got the Trojan on her computer, okay, but most likely it did come from a friend, and that's the first thing. So someone spoofs an email, and spoofing just means that they create an email address that looks like their friend's email address, and then they send them an email that says, open up this file. So it looks like it's coming from a trusted source. So, well, I would never fall for that. Well, it actually happened to my wife last week. One of our clients, actually friends of ours now, sent an email to my wife, and my wife said, something's off with this email. And it's like, and I said, well, is it her? Well, there's her picture. I said, but that email address isn't hers. It's like, well, how did they get the picture, and how did they get their name? Well, it's pretty easy. They can go to social media. If I'm targeting Joe Smith, I go to Joe Smith and I look at one of their friends on there, and then pretty easy for me to go to that friend's profile, pull a picture from that profile, create a false email address, and send them an email. So a little bit of work on the hacker's part, but it's worth it when you can steal hundreds of thousands of dollars in one swoop. Okay? So what they'll do is they'll create an email address, say Larry Smith, and here's the real email address, larry@unsecuredtitle.com, okay? Can become larry.unsecuredtitle@gmail.com. Now you go, well, I might notice that, but that's not actually what you see when you look at emails. What you see is this. Okay? So I actually use Outlook. This is right out of my email. I actually use Outlook, and this is what my emails look in Gmail. So what I do is I forward my Gmail emails into a different thing that I like using better than the Gmail application. Okay, so, but you'll see, what do you see here? You don't see the email address, you just see the name. Okay? So literally the email could be hacker@hacker.com, and you would never notice it because really what just as long as they had the label of Dave Monty there, that's all you're going to see is that particular email. Okay, so you see the label. It's even worse if you're looking at your phone, okay? It's because it's in bold. You never see the email address. So people rarely look at the email address. And that's not how to protect yourself from a scam, of always looking at an email address. But if someone's asking you to open something, I highly recommend you look at the email address and make sure that it's coming from the person you think it's coming from. Okay, so that's step number one, is the ability for the hacker to pose as somebody else. Then all they're going to do is they're simply, again, like I said, in this particular transaction, when the client reached out to the title company for wiring instructions, there was a hacker in the middle, and they said, okay, here they are. So the title company never got that email, okay? But the hacker did, and then the hacker sent the false thing. And you go, well, how do you fake wiring instructions? Well, assume these are real wiring instructions. Like, I actually took this from the title company, changed the information on here so it didn't look real. But say this is the real instructions. It's pretty easy for a hacker just to go boom, boom. I can see there. And now it looks like can you tell the difference? You can't. Right? Really, in this particular case, you could change the bank name and information. For my client, was interesting was that it was the hacker actually used the same bank as the title company, so it was even closer. So anyway, very simple to send spoofed email instructions. Okay? We try to warn clients about this. This is actually the disclaimer at the bottom of the title company's email. It just says, due to increased risk of cyber fraud, prior to wiring any wire money into our account, we recommend calling our office. So they actually have a warning, right? I took this straight off the title person that was involved in the transaction, and just, this was at the bottom of her email address. Okay. Now, what's interesting, and I'm going to talk about how to protect yourself, which is don't trust email. So a lot of times the title company will send this attachment in email telling you not to trust things you receive in email, which is kind of a little bit ironic. But they said, if you have any questions, please call this number. Well, it's pretty easy for the hacker to do the same thing. Look, I just blocked it out and I put a new number in there. So, I think there's some wire fraud going on. I look at my wire fraud sheet and I call the hacker. So, in general, don't trust what you get in email because it is so easy to fool people. All right. So how do you protect yourself? First of all, follow password recommendations. So make sure your password is strong. Make sure that it's not shared with anyone, and make sure it's a little bit complicated. If anyone wants a really cool email hack, because it's so hard to keep track of this stuff, you can email me and I can tell you my little secret about how I keep track of all my emails. It's a pretty simple thing, but I don't want to broadcast it to everyone. But if individuals want to know, just email me and I'll explain how I keep track of mine. The other thing is, and I said this in here, but I didn't put it on the slide. If you get an email from somebody asking you to open an attachment, check the email address real quick. Okay, again, but that's not how to protect yourself from this particular fraud. That's to protect yourself from other things that possibly could happen. Right? If you're getting pressure from somebody on the other end to wire the money, hey, did you wire the money? I haven't seen the wire yet. Please wire the money. If you're getting repeated emails asking you to wire money, that should throw up red flags. So if you're getting pressure, think twice and pick up the phone. The big thing is pick up the phone for wiring instructions. To protect yourself, Google the phone number of the title company, go to, make sure you're calling the title company, call them up and say, hey, I need the wiring instructions. I'm going to sit here with you on the phone and I want to review these wiring instructions to make sure they're correct before you send any money. So the best way to protect yourself is be on the phone with the title company, review the wiring instructions with the title company so you know you're actually sending it to the right place. So unfortunately, this isn't the most fun topic, but it isn't extremely important. Just if anyone's asking you to open up anything, kind of double check the email address. But the big thing here is, especially with wiring instructions, call the title company to get those and review them with the title company over the phone before you send any money, and that should protect you from all of this. Again, I do cover this topic in my free 42-page guide, Buying and Selling a Home in the Villages. If you'd like your free copy, just email me right here at davemontysales@gmail.com, and I will send you out your copy. I hope this was informative, and I hope you don't fall victim to this. Do take those precautions. And again, I hope to see you around the Villages. Take care.